the reward for all the pain and suffering I've experienced the last couple weeks because the flirt variant was that spike protein that, yes, raped my cells, my immune system, and it woke up whatever demons I held within. And that's what happens when girls and boys and women and men, when they get raped or even consent to something, it wakes up the demons within. That's what Pandora's box is. If somebody found a way in and opened it up, and then all the demons came out. And that's the chaos in our society. And so our world has been built on some really interesting things. And the medical holistic system was built on consensual rape, which is like an oxymoron, because how can rape be consensual? Because, again, it's the black and white checkerboard. You have to find a way to survive what you're consenting to and even what you're not consenting to. But again, we have rules and laws that are in place so that way you're not getting completely destroyed by another person, place, or thing. And everything is relative. And so, I mean, this goes so deep that I don't think most people are prepared for how deep this shit goes. What do you mean? Because, I mean, everything happens, everything at the micro level will manifest at the macro level or at the community level, the state level, the continent level, the earth level. And so when I was studying all the different antibodies that are a byproduct of two entities coming together, literally, causing a chemical reaction, developing an offspring. And there are two types of antibodies. They're the ones that I've mentioned to illustrate my point of view, is the B lymphoma or B cells, and then the natural killer T cells, and then what develops the sex or gender of a baby, and why you'd also have intersex or hermaphrodites. Well, it's the antibodies. It's the B antibodies and it's the natural killer T cell antibodies. And then that also develops the types of genders that build great nations, nation building. I mean, look at Dubai, patriarchal society. They bring in slaves from overseas. It's a patriarchal society. Women are second fiddle. And it's the men that runs things, and they build amazing fucking things. I mean, I'm telling you, men in our society are the innovators and the protectors and the destroyers. Women have to figure out how they're going to survive the men in their society, the men in their family, and the current times. And so there's so many different levels of rape, but the system has to go and figure out how to develop and build a balanced society with their different factions and skills and abilities without having somebody go and insert themselves purposely to commandeer and destroy. And so that's like a thing that I can't even be the one to say, well, this is the right way and this is the wrong way. No, the system, the people who you are paying taxes to, who are then also accountable for somebody else. That's who runs your system. And we're here, which means they did something correctly. Because we've been around for at least 10,000 years. At least. I mean, more than that, but I'm just saying at least 10,000 years. So somebody was doing something correctly, but we had to keep developing cultures and then purify the petri dish. And then start again. And so that's why I'm saying that I think that it was the women who were the first creatures that developed the men, who developed the protector, the innovator, who developed the evolution. Men are evolutionary, absolutely, but they also can be de-evolutionary. And you have to support the evolution. And if that evolution, that prototype of a man with his family and that society is destroying himself and whatever, turning cannibalistic and murderous, then the system has to go and hunt them and do away with that genetic line, because they would destroy and start over again. And so even women can cause their own destruction to themselves and their family. That's what I'm saying. The matriarch can be just as deadly as the patriarch. So that's why there has to be a collective that isn't just women or isn't just men, that they understand there's got to be a balance guiding reproduction carefully. And sometimes it requires commandeering people's immune systems through consensual rape, I guess, and human experimentation. And again, there are different levels. And that's why you have to understand the laws of our society and understand that when you sign on the dotted line to get married, to go get a medical procedure, to go get a VACCINE, to be around people who are spitting out their spike proteins at you, you have to know what you're consenting to and what the consequences are to your consenting to whatever. I mean, it's not called rape, it's called the rapey therapy, which is basically saying I'm consenting to the rape of my body, mind, and spirit. That's what a therapy is, because a therapy is something that is FDA approved. A therapy is the intention to commandeer something that was not conditioned for that, and it's going to be forced to do something. But you are giving consent to that therapy, the rapey. But if you're not giving consent to something like the medical, holistic, or marriage, or family, or going into large groups of people, then yes, the system can use a law to say, okay, who held you captive? Who purposely stabbed you with a knife or did something against your will? And that's why it's so dangerous for these young girls going into these Olympic, or being given to the system to go, practice for the Olympics or be taught by, somebody like Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts. You better be very careful who it is you're giving your kids to, because you don't know, with all these different sex offenders everywhere. And I touched upon something around the sexuality and pedophilia, but I didn't mature my conversation enough a couple of years ago, so I didn't even touch it until now, until I can say equally. Highly sexualized males and females, they are the tools and weapons of war. When it's all around you, you don't see it. When it's accepted to be highly sexualized, to have families, to, support diversity and support all the sexual orientations, you are supporting weapons of war. And then also grooming your kids, your boys and your girls, to be, to be the receiver or the giver and the hunter or the hunter. That's when your whole society is built on that. How do you see anything wrong with that? When your grandma's doing it, when your mom is doing it, what is that? Well, building families and hunting people and trying to get off, literally. And looking for so much diversity, looking for the newest conquest. And so pedophilia, when you think about it, pedophilia is from a highly sexualized society looking to destroy the newest thing, looking to destroy evolution. Because children are evolution. Is it the right kind of evolution based upon what society wants? Not necessarily all the time, because then guess what we're developing? Destroyers. That's what highly sexualized society does. You have families that destroy each other, but that's socially acceptable. Then you have people screwing each other out of existence, but it's socially acceptable as long as you're signing the dotted line and you're consenting. But then on the other side of it, we have people who break the law. And when the law says 18, which is, how do we know people are mentally mature enough to say yes or no? But hey, 18 is when you're supposed to say yes or no. When you are an adult to make that decision, say yes or no to someone or something. And when you have people who are highly sexualized looking for the innocent, looking for the 17, 16, 15, 14, and maybe they're underage, okay, but someone who is like 18 above, looking for someone 18 and under, that's against the law. But again, how nowadays these girls are so highly sexualized at a young age. We have 16-year-olds that look like they're 30, and they have their mothers putting them out there on display because she's so proud of what she produced. She's just like her own mother, using her as a tool. And that's why these mothers put their daughters out there, because she was put out there too on the slave block. And you feel bad for these women Because that's what they were groomed for, is to be somebody's sexual plaything, to be destroyed by the family, by her husband, by everyone around her. It's really fucking sad. It's really sad. And so, yeah, the system is going to have to go and just clean up the petri dish. And it is. That's what all this climate change is. I'm telling you, I feel better today, but the last couple days I have been blowing my nose, and hawking up loogies. And I can feel it up here. And I still feel the pressure on top of my shoulders and my arms and a little bit of my back. But I still can't, but it's not as bad as it was the last couple weeks. But what's pretty cool is I can, now when I start falling asleep, I can catch myself snoring. Before, it's just like I'd be up and then maybe I fall asleep. But now I'm seeing the release of whatever it was that I was harboring inside or picked up along the way. I couldn't tell you where all these damn viruses are. But again, remember, we're all viruses, and the system will wake up things that are most influential. But we all are full of viruses, and you're just going to have to deal with the system waking up different parts of your body, and you keep eating and rebuilding and becoming strong and strong until the people around you drop like flies, until you become the strongest prototype in your circle, in your community. Because you have to deal with a community of spike proteins that are floating in the air that will commandeer your immune system or rape you through the air, the spike proteins. I mean, Kim Rydell clued me in on that. I mean, I heard spike proteins. I heard it in the anti-V world. But when she was saying that she was attacked by a spike protein in her community, and that's why she's feeling sick. Oh, yeah, it woke up things, and she has headaches and whatever, and I hope she gets well soon. But not too soon. I want her to be able to release that and not try to cure it. But again, that's up to her. I'm thinking like, oh, my God, that's right. You have to survive the rape of your community through the atmosphere, the influential microbes that are the spike proteins that your friends and family breathe on you, and then you're going to have to pick and choose what you're willing to tolerate. You're going to have to be the one to be accountable to where you go, what you're doing. If you have to be able to survive the air, food, and water, and then also the people around you. And you're going to get raped by the atmosphere from all the spike proteins that you're inhaling. And then when you're getting therapies, which is state-sanctioned, socially acceptable rapey of the body with oncology and direct energy weapons, devices and VACC-INESs and scalpels and whatever else. I hope you survive all of that state-sanctioned RAPE. But that's why there's a word in front of rapey to tell you that it is something that was consensual. But it's still forcing the blood vessels in the body to do things against its will or what it was not conditioned to do. It's all, yeah. But I knew there was a reason why pedophiles exist, because it's the family that is highly sexualized. And when you have so many kids in a family and they all are representation of highly influential viruses that are in major deficit, and their whole point is to destroy through their penis, vagina, whatever, then their conquests become younger and more innocent and easily destructible, whatever. That's why pedophiles don't like adult women or men, because they'll put up a fight. They want something that they know they can control and destroy. That's the dangers of sex offenders, is they look for things to destroy and control. That's the whole thing on the to catch a predator. People who are predators look for the most weakest, most innocent thing to go and destroy through manipulation, through love, sexuality, and yeah. And so that's why they have people that do entrap them, which I think is a good thing to get them off the street. But when you have some people developing children, you're developing so many little lambs out there that are going to be destroyed. It's like the system can't control that. When you decide to have 50 million kids and you don't watch your kids, and the kids are on the internet and they're out there meeting people. Okay, I mean, I was internet dating and I was an adult. I had enough sense. I'm sure I could have died in a few situations, but there are kids that don't know the ways of the world and they don't have a defense system, really, in body, mind, and spirit, or even intellectually, or, knowing the ways of the world. And so they get destroyed. And right now it's impossible for authority to protect all these kids who have been highly sexualized by their families and then are put out there by their own families, by their mothers, who's showing everything on the internet to everybody, showing how she's so hot and here's her daughters and sons and whatever. Yeah, these kids don't stand a chance. So yeah, there's so many predators out there. They're taking advantage of that situation. Well, that's the weapons of war. You develop little lambs that don't know any better, and you develop predators, and then they come together literally and physically, figuratively, and then there you go, it's done. And that's crazy. And so, let me just read stuff. The West was built on RAPE, the rapies. Was it necessary? I suppose the ends justify the means. I mean, I can't wait for the future, but it'll be beautiful. But right now, the present is fucking grim. And so there are men out there, highly sexualized men, extremely highly testosterone men, teaching other men, beta males, right, how to be alpha males or highly aggressive testosterone-filled males. So now watch the highly sexualized men teach other men how to manipulate and pick up hot chicks. Tools for war. So making your granddaughters and daughters into some sex plaything just makes not only a tool for war, but to be destroyed by her community. You're basically grooming your girls to be destroyed by the highly sexualized men and women in our society. Again, we have some very aggressive males who are teaching other males how to basically conquer and destroy women. Not even hot women, just women in general. And when men, adult men, even younger men, literally get a taste for blood, they can smell innocence a mile away, and they know how to manipulate a girl who just left her family. And then she's taken advantage of, and then in turn turns it predatory herself until both sexes in the West and even in the third world countries destroy each other. Again, they did that experiment, or I don't know if it's an experiment, I think they intentionally did it, showed internet porn to an Amazon tribe, and now they're all addicted to jacking off. Again, what do these girls have to look forward to? Fighting off all these sexualized males and adults in her society? What do these men have to look forward to besides screwing everything and each other out of existence? Yeah, these girls don't stand a chance when their own family is grooming them to be destroyed, and that is the saddest of all. But the train has left the station because you can't stop what's already here and what's coming. What do you mean what's coming? Well, climate change is going to even the playing field. Those that don't have enough substance to deal with energy conversion, they'll die suddenly. That's what's inevitable. Okay? But you're going to see what happens, see what families do with their children. It's really, really sad. Now go look at your internet. Look at the girls. Look at who's on, what they post in their profile picture. Look when they put their girls out there who wear next to nothing. Booty shorts. Everything. It's crazy. And by the way, people who intentionally insert their aggressive comments with malintention on your page or in your email show not only lack of boundaries, but also a clear example of spiritual or virtual rape. Now, wow, that's some shit, Jillian, because you did that too. Absolutely. I was not innocent of all that. I did that shit. I trolled people. I spiritually raped people. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm ashamed of it. And I'm not proud of it. And I will never do that again, ever. That's why I have to keep watching myself. And so when I get annoyed at what someone says or whatever on their own Facebook, then I just take their information and convert it in my world. But I will never, ever spiritually rape somebody on their page by trolling them. And so those are hard lessons. You have to look at yourself and what you've done and what you're also observing. Okay? And so, yeah, lack of boundaries. When you're constantly trying to counter someone in their thoughts and you're in their emails and you're in their private message box, or you're on their page just trolling them and telling them what you think of them, you are literally spiritually raping somebody, which means that somebody raped you somewhere in your world. Somebody did something to you that caused you to now reenact what was done to you. And that's the saddest of all. Now look at everybody on Facebook and look what they're suffering from. Okay? That right now you're seeing how much suffering humans are under because of what our ancestors has taught us. I mean, could I say the Nephilim, the giants, the fall of mankind? Yeah, I guess. So trolling people is an example of rape. Activism makes people spiritually and controlled rapists in our society because they purposely insert themselves in your face, in your world, and even in your body if given the opportunity with word weapons of war and objects which could be their extremities or devices built for war. And that's the holistic community. When they're sticking things in their body, mind, and spirit, when they're employing strangers to stick things in their body, mind, and spirit. I mean, it's not called rape, it's called therapy. That rapey. Now go look at Bill Gates' page and look at the people who are raping his page with their aggressive, fucked up accusations and comments about whatever. Now, yeah, I listened to something that did put something out there, that one TED Talk that he did, where he did talk about controlling the population through vaccinations, through this, through that. Well, what do you think your penis is, man? There's like a vaccination. It's a growth that a person must assimilate to. And some people have babies with that. What do you think all the therapies in the holistic world? It's like a vaccine. I mean, there's natural vaccinations, which is your immune system being exposed to the spike proteins in your community. And so it's not just these that are controlling populations, people who hang out together in a highly influential environment. Okay? So, I mean, yes, what he said may have alarmed people, but imagine what your spike proteins are doing to somebody else in a highly aggressive, influential environment. If you can even admit that we're in climate change. Many can't admit that. So that's why I stick to my page and I say what I say on my page. I don't even impose my view or rape somebody else's page or body or mind or spirit with anything that could conflict with what they're doing on their own page. And that does take a lot of discipline and watching my own thoughts and behaviors. Okay? And so the activist community rapes each other with their words, and they purposely hunt people and rape them with their words. Now go look at the activist community all over social media, and you can see who the spiritual rapists are in our society, or the ones who put themselves and their kids on Front Street to be used and abused. But again, in a highly sexualized society, that's the mothers and the grandmothers' claim to fame, is how hot their granddaughters and grandsons and whoever is. And so here you go. That's the only thing they can offer society, is something to be a commodity to be destroyed and used. And that tells you that's a downfall of society, when grandmothers and mothers do that to themselves and also their own children and family. And so, yeah, family is the first human traffickers. And so rape was always a tool for war, which is why pedophiles are so prolific. We did this. Big families did this. Why do you think there are so many sex offenders in your community? They were produced by the families in your society. So go onto your Google and Google how many sex offenders are in your area. You're probably living right next door to one. And you don't even know it. But you don't hunt them. Because remember, that's not their fault. Yes, they're going to have to control their urges, and some have issues with that, and that's why they go to jail or insane asylums. But you produce that. You have fostered that in your world. You have supported that. That's why I'm not mad at Biden, Trump, or Hunter Biden or anything, because we produce them. We produce people like Trump. We produce people like Biden. We produce people like Hunter Biden. We produced the people are resisting. We did it to ourselves. We're producing that in our families right now. And so, it is not just men, it is also women. Highly sexualized men and women go after the most innocent and defenseless thing, which is why the school system and placement with children have the highest amount of sex offenders. Sex, large families, and rape was and is used as a tool for war. Nothing is coincidence, nothing at all. So when you hear about the Russians invading Ukraine and things happening and women were raped and all that stuff, and it happens in so many different societies and wars, yeah, rape has always been used as a tool for war. And so when generations develop more boys and girls, those spike proteins want to inseminate everything. But again, girls and women can be just as predatory, looking for her nearest conquest. So you hear about these women like Mary Kay Letourneau. She died, and she victimized some 14-year-old or whatever she was teaching. So we have girls who go into the teaching profession, go into these high schools, and these guys, they look like they're in their 20s, but they're young and they're innocent. But they're also looking to bag an adult female, and that was a badge of honor in the 80s, like hot for teacher. Where do you think that all came from? Hot for teacher. So when you hear about these stories about boys being victimized by women, then you have these Gen Xers going on like, oh, back in our day, that was the thing to do. That was a badge of honor. No, you have just now opened up Pandora's box, literally. You opened a can of worms. You have just triggered the monster within. And yeah, the movies like the 90s, the one with Mark Wahlberg and Reese Witherspoon and Alyssa Milano and some other actors, Amy Brenneman, that movie Fear, and even American Beauty, that was all about America becoming a weapon of war against humanity through sexuality and waking up the innocents, waking up the beast within. And so Alyssa Milano and Reese Witherspoon played those two juxtaposing females, but it was still the black and white checkerboard, whether she was getting brutalized, like Alyssa Milano was getting brutalized in that, and then Reese Witherspoon was the innocent, having her flower, whatever, in that one scene, you know, wild horses and the whole roller coaster scene. Geez, it's on Netflix if you want to watch it. Yeah. Wow. And so sex, large families, and rape was in use as a tool for war. And so nothing is coincidence, nothing at all. And when generations develop more boys and girls, yes, those spike proteins want to inseminate everything. But again, girls and women can be just as predatory, looking for the nearest conquest. So now you know why the system developed such high aggressive sexuality in the West, because children will be used as a tool for war. Highly sexualized adults, even at 19, will be used as a tool for war. As you see, these poor girls get pregnant because their mother was also pregnant at the same age. So now watch these chicks on Facebook talk about love, 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 and she's a single mom. Yeah, she was traumatized and highly sexualized during the Gen X years. And so her daughters might be lesbian or LGBTQ, but some sexual orientation. And that's why you see the left are all about diversity, which I understand, fine. That still shows you a sign of highly sexualized people. And then you also see that in the right because of the family. It's a different type of sexualization. It's a different type of trafficking. That's the black and white checkerboard. It's a logical fallacy. So then I had to go beyond what was the right sexuality, because there is no right sexuality. I mean, that was a tool for war. That was destruction. That was born from the 1960s. Introduced, when you think about it, in the 1930s, 20s, the Flappers, and Josephine Bakers. Oh, God. And then it became strategic in the 1960s. Then that's the revolution, the sexual revolution, drug revolution, civil rights, all that. And then, yeah, and those Twiggy girls, and then now you have now you have girls that are just going off the deep end, like Britney Spears. Oh, it's crazy. And so you are the spike protein that's making your friends and family very sick. And the high frequency environment influences your spike proteins to be extremely influential. All biodiversity holds the spike protein, making everyone sick around them. And now it's the ultimate survivor. Who is going to survive somebody else's spike protein? Who's going to ultimately survive their circle of friends and family? Long story short, rape is a tool for war. How do you get people to rape each other without breaking the law? You aggravate their immune system, and their immune system rapes the people around them, but it's not rape when you're giving consent by being around people, okay? When you sign on the dotted line to join a company or get married or be a roommate with someone stranger, you are now giving consent to be sexualized out of existence, even through your immune system. The system is fucking strategic, I'll tell you that. And then, of course, the pet industry intermixes humans and animals to where their immune system rapes each other. Everybody holds their own version of a spike protein that goes and attacks anything within the vicinity, especially in a highly influential environment. That's how you have a dual society of black and white, whereas on the outside it looks all on the up and up, and on the inside people are getting screwed out of existence, if not out there when they're getting with people. That was the logical fallacy of both humans and animals, men and women. You don't see the side that is destroying you because all you see is the marketing and the hormones and the, oh, look how cute they are, and that is. Right? Look how cute the animal is. Yeah, okay. I gotta pee. And so, yeah, I hear people mention the spike proteins and how they're feeling sick because they develop growth. Well, that's what rape is, right? When a spike protein enters into your body without your permission and then it rapes yourself and causes immune system activation, you have to survive the rape of your body, mind, and spirit in an atmosphere full of spike proteins. You have no choice but to breathe the air, so I hope you can survive the air that you breathe, the food that you eat, and the water that you drink, and the people you choose to hang out with, because their spike proteins will inevitably rape your body, mind, and spirit with your permission. And your immune system will build wonderful skyscrapers in your body until it also destroys you. What do you mean by that? Because you're developing antibodies, you're developing growth. Again, there was an example when I went to a party last year and I inhaled everyone's spike proteins. And guess how big I got? I got fucking huge. I looked so bloated. And I showed you pictures of what I looked like when I took on everyone's spike proteins. That inevitably caused a chemical reaction called antibodies, and I became very swollen. And then I had to release them called hives. Coughing and sneezing and blowing my nose and pooping and feeling the pain and suffering. Well, I'm not doing that again. I'm not going to inhale diverse community spike proteins in a controlled circumstance. No, I'm going to be staying home and staying safe this summer. And so you saw how then, that my husband can handle parties and all of that. My husband is built like a fucking brick shit house. I look at him going like, God damn. I swear, males. Yes, I understand why people worship the males, because they have strength, they have stamina, they have longevity. They can be destroyers, they can be innovators, they can be so smart, they can be so dumb, they can be so intellectual and just everything, and they also can be, very strong and build you everything under the sun. And that is the power of men. That is the power of men. But from that power, it can also destroy. Okay? But my husband, he enjoys his life. He loves to fish. He likes to party when the time comes, and not all the time because he'd destroy himself. He likes to go and inject his spike protein whenever he can, and I limit that so that way I don't get destroyed. But yeah, so I'm very happy that my husband is very strong, that he hasn't had too many operations, if at all. Actually, he hasn't had any operations at all. He's hardly been treated for any diseases or sicknesses, and whatever it is that he felt the last couple of years, he's pooped it out, shit it out, he's sweated it out, and he's also, I've fed him foods and all that stuff, and he had to rest for a week or so, and usually when he gets sick from these frequencies, and I say, I'll stay home for a week and sleep or something, okay? And sometimes that's what's necessary. But if he can handle the parties, he'll go to them. But I can't go to any more parties. There's no way I'm going to inhale any more spike proteins from anybody else's immune system. Because this morning, again, in the last couple of days, I have been coughing and sneezing and blowing my nose and pulling out crap and feeling the pain of my shoulders because my lymph nodes are opening up underneath my armpits. I don't have the rashes like I did, because that's the immune system opened up because of excessive beta cells, or B cells. I'll say beta cells, B cells. That could turn into lymphoma for some people. But I've opened up my immune system to release the demons. And so when I blow my nose so hard, you can hear the sucking sound of the body just then relieving the pressure from me blowing my nose. So that's when you hear me blow my nose really hard, you hear the squeaky sound of the air, being released, and it's weird. You hear that? Okay. So sometimes you'll hear the squeaky sound. But that's like a heart defibrillator. That's like a defibrillation. So I don't get blood clots and die from strokes and heart attacks. All right. So how the West was won. Aggressive sexuality, and sexuality is a tool for war. Sexual orientation is an aggressive tool for war. But again, this is a process. And so even though I do support diversity, pointing this out is also part of diversity, but I'm not raping anybody. I'm not going on their page and telling them what they should do, think, or say. I'm not raping your mind because you're choosing to come to my page. I'm not manipulating you. I'm not using anything to make you believe or take part in what I'm doing. I'm merely observing the society I live in, that I used to take part in, and what I thought was normal. And I realized that I was also a tool for war until I decided not to become a tool for somebody else's war. Oh yeah, I was highly sexualized. Absolutely. And it wasn't even done illegally, because my mother knew how to use the environment that was already socially acceptable. Yeah, the dirty rap, when you're buying your kids Too Short and Eazy-E, and you have those explicit lyrics, and women are looked at in a certain way in that dirty rap. When you're watching movies like Pretty Woman and Saturday Night Fever, you're watching how women get sexualized from the 70s and in the 80s, and glamorizing dating billionaire boys so you become a sex plaything and then try to look presentable and respectable by dressing her up in clothes of those who have money. That's Pretty Woman. That's sexualizing girls. Pretty Woman. So yeah, my mother knew how to make me sexualized through media. Remember the books like Forever and Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, and Judy Blume. What is it? Sweet Valley High. And it gets sex ed, yeah. But see, that's the thing, is that we're going to be anyways, because you're going to be, girls are entering into these wars that they know nothing about. So yeah, I had to know what the hell was going on. And I had to watch some of that media stuff. Because at this point, until society changes, girls are going to have to be introduced to something like this in ways that are legal. So that way they know what they're in for, and maybe they can survive it. Maybe. How many girls out there are being let loose with absolutely no knowledge because their mothers don't know how to really explain how shit works? And then that's a double-edged sword, is introducing something that they could potentially get lost in and die in. How many girls out there that are on the internet give information to some stranger and they get kidnapped and human trafficked? That's what I'm saying. You're in a fucked up society, and I don't know how these girls are going to survive. I have no idea. They get destroyed by their husbands, or they get human trafficked, or they get on Instagram and OnlyFans and hope they survive that. But then these girls are dying suddenly. Why are they dying suddenly? Because they already had deficits. They treat their disease continuously until the body can't be treated anymore. And then the climate changes and they die from a heart attack and stroke. And so, remember Biff from Back to the Future? He built an empire of casinos, and his wife was nothing more than just a plastic certified figurehead. Men are innovative. Men are amazing. Men are protectors and predators, and they can build the highest buildings, the tallest skyscrapers, like Trump, right? And can develop aggressive intellectual innovation, and they can also destroy. Dubai was built by men who will eventually burn through the population because they are in control. Patriarchal societies will build and screw everything out of existence. Matriarchal societies can also destroy society if she has too many aggressive antibodies controlling her, like too many NKT cells. And then she's highly sexualized and she has boy babies, and then in turn into innovators, potentially, and destroyers, and then the cycle starts all over again. We have too many boys that will screw everything out of existence, and then human extinction could happen. That's the fall of society, and then somebody has to go in and clean the petri dish. That's what the whole flood was, right? Noah's flood. Places like Dubai are not sustainable over a long period of time. But they can show you when there are enough men on the planet what men can build. When they have too many men, they will destroy themselves and each other. And of course, women will be screwed out of existence because look at how many women right now are having boy babies. And they're single too. Eventually, there'll be no more girl babies because the men would have found all the women and got them pregnant, and then there goes humanity if somebody doesn't step in and stop it. Right now, both men and women are screwing themselves out of existence in body, mind, and spirit. They can't release because they don't have the conditioning for it. They have been deficient of air or of food because they can't handle meat, milk, cheese, eggs, or anything. They think everything is poison. And so they say, oh, eat only organics. They're not getting enough nutrition. And so when the climate changes and they don't have enough reinforcement of their blood vessels, they're forced to cough, sneeze, and blow their nose. They don't have the conditioning for it. They get a stroke, heart attack, or if they just had an operation, they'll lose their intestines out of their stomach. Because the force of the body wanting to cough and sneeze then broke the stitches from that recent surgery, and then their intestines are all over their seat. That's what these people are facing right now, who are getting operation after operation after operation. America was the last greatest experiment, showing you when they build our society on aggressive sexual reproduction and sexual orientation and huge families. That's how you depopulate society, as you get everyone screwing each other literally and physically and figuratively. In Back to the Future, Biff burned through his wealth building those casinos and turned his whole city into a dystopian society. Now look at San Francisco. Look at LA. Look at all the big cities turning into homeless camps full of drug addicts and zombies and tourists who are stepping over bodies like I did when I was living in San Francisco, stepping over bodies at the BART station, getting to my job, staying away from the Tenderloin, staying away from Hunters Point, which is where Candlestick Park used to be, because that's where all the homeless and the indigent and the drug addicts hung out. But then when you go to the BART stations and you get off at Montgomery Street and there's homeless that you got to step over because they're laying everywhere. That's a dystopian society. And so it took a doctor, a scientist, Doc Brown, right, to figure some shit out and go back to the future and try to fix what was wrong. I just watched The Secret of My Success yesterday, again for the 5th time. Oh yeah, back then they're saying, oh yeah, those that live in Kansas, in the middle of America, come to New York and make it big and become a CEO, become a corporate raider, become a corporate executive and learn how to fuck people for money. Literally, learn how to fuck people for money. And that's exactly what the 80s was about. Is how do you fuck people for money? Oh yeah, it's pretty bad. But if you advocate your boys to screw everything out of existence and get married to have a bunch of kids to go and enslave a woman who's built for sex and children, then you are part of the agenda and you have no room to say the system is destroying you because you are actively taking part in that agenda. That's why there's not a lot of hope for these girls, because they are made to be screwed out of existence and to get drunk and to get high and have a child and go out with a bang with all of her girlfriends, buying everything under the sun, selling you a remedy, a diet, and her hot body. That's how the West was won and conquered, was through aggressive sexuality. And that's the reason why we have pedophiles in our society, because we have procreated so much in bodies in deficit that aggressively sexual people will try to destroy the newest and youngest, which is also why older men like younger women, because they can go and corrupt them. That's why Weinstein was what he was. That's why Epstein was what he was. That's why P. Diddy is who he is. That's why R. Kelly liked what he was doing. That's what made him such a great artist, because he was using people's... He was using the trauma, the adrenochrome, right? The adrenaline that these girls are undergoing, such trauma. And we now have mothers who are forcing their daughters into this trauma. And she thinks it's great. Oh, look how cute my girl is. Oh, look how cute my kid is. Fuck. Sexuality is a tool of war, and aggressive sexuality is how the system can destroy whatever they target. And so the reason why we have so many pedophiles in our society is because we have procreated so many bodies in deficit that aggressive sexual people will try to destroy the newest and youngest, which is also why older men like younger women, because they can go and corrupt them. And why we have Europeans and Americans going off to Thailand to go find a young girl or boy to go and corrupt and hurt. Yeah, it's pretty fucking bad out there. And so sexuality is a tool of war, and aggressive sexuality is how the system can destroy whatever they target, which is why Ashley Madison was such a hit, because all those men who are highly sexualized can find the women or girls that they can go and corrupt and destroy. When men can just order a woman on the internet, oh my God. Yeah. So I would not be envious of the girls in Hollywood who are sex toys to these billionaire boys clubs. But that's what America was built on, and you're watching it play out. Just look at your Facebook. Look at the influencers, the hot women selling you everything under the sun, and their bodies too, and their girls and their boys. It's crazy. It's really freaking crazy. Which is why I get so mad at the women who put themselves and their girls on Front Street to be used as a sex toy. And again, I'm not religious, okay? So don't think of where I'm coming from as from some puritanical standpoint. No. Because even the religious people have used sexuality and their patriarchal, matriarchal background as a way to corrupt and destroy and convert. And so when you have people who are out there in the sun all the time, and the sun is so amplified, yeah, it breaks down the body and causes then aggressive predatory behaviors, because traumas come up and sexuality comes up and things fornicate. And that's when you have things trapped in the body, fornicating, causing then sexual orientation and sexual expression. And so this is why we have such predators, because your people are breaking down. And when you're breaking down tree rings, you're now seeing what traumas people hold within come into surface. And that's all the cancer, disease, chronic illness, the crime, and all of the predatory behaviors rearing their ugly heads. And it just takes one family to reproduce cannibals. So for 25 years, Sonny Bean and his incestuous family of cannibalistic children terrorized medieval Scotland. According to folklore, the brood would descend upon unsuspecting travelers and then dismember, pickle, and devour them. Some estimate that the family cannibalized up to 1,000 people, until one man escaped and told King James VI. Legend maintains that the king assembled a group of 400 men and a large number of bloodhounds just to track the Bean family down. And when the mob discovered the clan hiding out in a seaside cave, they found a scene of unprecedented carnage. This is a story of Sonny Bean. So we already hear about some zombie gnawing on somebody's severed leg over there somewhere, whether it's the UK or America. Oh, it's already out there. Because they're in third world countries, and then we've opened the borders, right? Because that's what we do. Is we now are going to like, okay, let everybody fight it out. That's why I don't go out and hang out in public. I'm glad I don't live in a big city. I don't live in Florida. I don't live in anywhere where it's all about diverse people and everything. I stay home and stay safe and stay around very homogenized people right now, and I don't even hang out with too many diverse people. If I go on a boat with my husband and maybe the people are boating, okay, fine. But it's a controlled circumstance. But would I go into like a big city and hang out, like go to a concert or go walk the railroad tracks somewhere after dark? Fuck no. There's too many weird things hanging out in the dark. And so now you know why rape is used as a tool for war. It not only dilutes the targets, but it also destroys the women and the men of that society. And it traumatizes that whole cultural population. So what does the system do? They sanction the destruction of people through family and having children. That's how the system got you and destroyed parts of humanity. They did it from within. Now you have to be strong enough and be the ultimate survivor or be screwed to death by everyone around you, even by the spike proteins. And then, which is why now, NK cells, NKT cells. Now, and if you Google, does a sperm have the, does a sperm cause an antimicrobial thing? No, the sperm actually is it suppresses the immune system. Okay? So that sperm suppresses the immune system and allows potentially that sperm to inseminate an egg if that was the intention. And so it's the man that will then cause the destruction. The sperm will also cause its own destruction of developing a life that's going to be competing for resources in that receiver's body, whether it's a man in his colon, because you know how men do stuff if they're gay, and women who have to receive that information and then develop a competing life force that will inevitably destroy her from the inside. So which is why men's sperm are known to cause cell death in the women they screw to death, or the men. NK cells, natural killer T cells, can induce apoptotic, or necrotic cell death in their respective targets, and potentially also induce mixed forms of target cell death. That's why women should never let any man or woman screw her to death, literally and figuratively. Men can also be the predator and the protector, and they also can be the destroyer and the innovator, and it must be balanced correctly. That's why we're in a great reset. And so antibodies become offspring and then programmed based upon the type of stress causing them to behave like a B cell or natural killer T cell, which is why you have more men who are serial killers than women, which is why a society full of men will destroy each other faster and extinct human versus a society full of women, which is why some men can be very dangerous to women because their natural instincts is to annihilate what they think is the enemy, which is also why men in general like to destroy things and screw things, even each other, which is why men need to control their sexuality so it doesn't become a tool of destruction versus a tool of innovation. Too many natural killer T cells, a person will die from the attacks of their own immune system, just like having too many men in a society that will destroy humanity. Okay? But even women, when women are under so much duress from whatever, look at all the women are having boy babies. Having boy babies means there was some physical stress that caused the antibodies to then turn into a boy who becomes the innovator and the protector. Now watch these women with their boy babies, and then the men become Norman Bates, and they're bowing down to mommy, and mommy is dictating her every move, and she's also choosing his wife. And so that's why these girls, are the slaves. And that's and that's why these poor girls, they come into these families, they are the human sacrifice. And they have to kiss the ring. Because they will be used as a tool. What did I say about that? Hold on. Mama's boys and daddy's girls. And so when you have daddy's girls and mama boys, get together. That's all out annihilation. That's a recipe for a disaster. You have a couple, a power couple, who feels entitled. Everyone owes them something, and they become dangerous. I've seen that a lot in California. It's all over Southern California. Little mall princesses who shop for everything or buy everything online, taking selfies, trying to be the newest influencer. Those grandchildren do not stand a chance against anyone. They will be coddled to death and screwed out of existence because mommy and daddy will choose their husbands and their wives until all-out family extinction. They both will be forced to have children to appease each of the family's klingdom. Klingon? Then everybody becomes a Klingon, a predator. That's how the system got to the family. They made the parents develop mama's boys and daddy's girls. Now go look at your Facebook and look at all the daddy's girls out there. And they're like, oh, I'm so thankful for you, daddy, for buying me everything under the sun. And oh, mom, and then you have the mama's boys. Oh, I love my mother so much. Let's get the male perspective around weaponized family members against the opposite sex in a relationship. And I'm not saying it's just the husband and the father's family that will enslave the wife, because even the wife can use the children as a weapon against her ex-husband. And that to me is probably the most horrific thing women can do to men as well. But I'm coming from a woman's perspective. But I know men have their perspective as well. And men have suffered under the brutality of his wife's family and the in-laws, the mother of his ex-wife, who is just as brutal as his ex-wife was and is. It's a war out there, and the family is probably the most brutal war ever, and people are screwing each other out of existence in body, mind, and spirit, and financially. Watch out for daddy's girls. Watch out for mama's boys. Yes, daddy's girls will weaponize her father against the father of her children and intimidate the father into destroying himself. Yeah, daddy's girls are princesses who think they do no wrong, and they will utilize her own family and to alienate the fathers. And so the father has to walk away because he doesn't want to die fighting his ex-wife's family or in-law. And when you have children, you are declaring war on society and your family and yourself. And so when you have daddy's girls and mama's boys get together, that's all-out annihilation. But again, I'm not targeting any specific family. Okay, and then a highly sexualized society will function out of existence regardless of sexual orientation. Okay, so you can make a hetero out of 2 gay DNA. Okay? The traditional way probably wasn't the original way. I couldn't tell you where the origin came from. And it wasn't Adam and Eve. It wasn't that Eve came from Adam's fucking rib. That's a freaking fallacy. I couldn't tell you where everything began. The Bible has some truth, but it also mixes truth and programming. So, I don't know if new wives will be able to survive her in-laws, because there's too much influence of these grandmothers who have an image to maintain. And so I'm just putting it out there to observe. And obviously, people are actively playing out their scripts. They don't know anything about what they're doing. They're looking for the doctor to save them from pain and suffering. The doctor can't do anything. Here's the thing. I had the pain and suffering the last couple of days, and my shoulders were hurting, and I had, my hump on my back was like, I don't know if you can see it. I'm just going to, so if you can see any hump, I don't know, but I will take a look at my video after watching it. But I could get all the tests in the world and go get all this shit tested, and then what? So they isolate whatever virus I have. Let's say it's the Epstein-Barr. Let's say it's a co-infection, the Epstein-Barr, and let's say parvovirus. So now they know they isolated it's a parvo or Epstein-Barr virus. Now what? I still got to release it. The only reason why you get a diagnosis is because you want to get a treatment for it, and you will not survive the treatments. You'll die eventually. Your body will not be able to handle any more treatments. So there's no point in me testing for whatever, because I just have to release the demons and eat food and rest and release and sleep. Okay? So whenever you imply that you have some disease that you want to go get tested for, then you are implying that you want to get treated and you want to have someone to go and rape you with a therapy, whether it's of cancer, VACCINE, or some instrument that will carve out your immune system, or anything else. And again, I couldn't tell someone if they should get something treated or not. It's not for me to decide. But anytime that you get a diagnosis, you are implying you want a treatment. So I don't need to know what kind of virus I have in my body or what is causing the whatever it is I'm dealing with. I don't care. I just have to release it. I've picked up so much along the way the last 50 years. I'm paying penance. I'm paying fucking penance. It's brutal, yes. But I was born and brought into a highly aggressive, sexualized society that women were used as tools, men were used as tools, and now the system is cleaning up the petri dish. But I will not be used as a weapon for war anymore. And so I'm just merely observing. I do not rape anyone in body, mind, or spirit. I do not impose my viewpoints on anyone. I don't cross boundaries. And I'm polite. Because I'm not trying to manipulate anyone through love and kindness and hate and spirituality and politics or religion. You will figure out what you can handle. It's not up to me. But I recognize the tool of war was aggressive sexuality and big families. And now you're seeing sexual predators everywhere and people suffering from disease. That was from all of you. So take accountability or blame somebody else. Bye.